Welcome to Infidelity Joy. We're so glad you've found us. At Infidelity Joy, if you resonate with what we offer, we invite you to subscribe, like, and share our content. By subscribing, you'll... Once upon a time in a small, quiet town in America, there was a church on the hill called Hearts of Grace. The people there were very happy and trusted their pastor, Pastor John. He had a warm smile, strong arms, and a voice like honey. Everyone believed he was a man of God. In this same town lived a woman named Sarah. Sarah was beautiful, kind, and married to a good man named Michael. They had 2 little boys who loved running in the fields and eating cookies after Sunday school. Sarah and Michael had been married for 10 years, but something had changed. Michael was always tired from work. He stopped talking sweet to Sarah. He forgot her birthday. She felt like a flower with no sunshine. One rainy evening, Pastor John called Sarah. "Can you come to church?" he asked. "Why, Pastor," she said, her heart beating fast. "I feel God wants me to pray with you." Sarah felt strange. Her hands shook, but she went. She wore her red coat. The church was dark except for one candle. Pastor John smiled when she walked in. He locked the door behind her. "It's just us," he said softly. They sat. They talked. He touched her hand. She pulled it away. But then he looked at her with those deep eyes and said, "I see you, Sarah. I see your pain." Tears filled her eyes. No one had said that in years. Suddenly, thunder crashed outside. A loud boom. And just then, the church door creaked open by itself. Sarah gasped. "Did you lock the door?" "Yes," he said. "Then who opened it?" They stood still, eyes wide. A cold wind rushed in. And then, something else happened. Something that would shake the whole town. The wind blew harder, and the candle flickered like it was scared too. Sarah held her breath. Pastor John stepped forward slowly. His shoes tapped on the church floor like tiny drums in the silence. "Maybe it was the wind," he whispered. But Sarah knew better. That door had opened like someone was standing there, someone who knew. Her heart beat like a wild drum. Suddenly, they heard it. A whisper, faint, like a dream, or a ghost. "Sarah," she turned quickly. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Pastor John's face turned pale. "No. I didn't." But he had. He was sweating now, even though it was cold. Sarah stepped back. "I should go home. My boys." He reached for her arm. "Wait. We haven't prayed yet." His hand was warm. Too warm. She froze. Her mind felt foggy, like she was underwater. She wasn't sure what was real anymore. Was this still prayer? Or something else? Then, bang! The candle fell. Darkness swallowed the room. Sarah screamed. Footsteps ran across the floor, but not theirs. Another whisper. "Why are you here, Sarah?" That voice was Michael's, but he was supposed to be at work. Was he hiding? Watching? Suddenly the lights flicked on, and there, standing near the back pew, was Michael. His face was stone. In his hand, he held a phone. "Was this your prayer meeting?" he asked slowly. Sarah's heart dropped. But then, another voice came from the hallway. "I told you not to trust him, Sarah." It was a woman's voice. And it wasn't Michael's. It wasn't even real. It was a voice Sarah hadn't heard in years. A voice from the past. A voice she thought was dead. Sarah's knees felt weak. Her eyes darted around the church like a child lost in a forest. The voice echoed again from the hallway. "I warned you, but you forgot me." Michael stared at Sarah, his jaw tight, but even he looked afraid now. He turned toward the hallway and shouted, "Who's there?" No answer. Only footsteps. Soft, bare, like someone walking with no shoes on the old wooden floor. Then a shadow moved past the stained glass window, quick and strange, like it floated. Pastor John stepped forward. "This is the house of God," he declared boldly, but his voice shook. "No evil has power here." But Sarah wasn't so sure, because that voice, that woman's voice, it wasn't just from the past, it was from her blood. Suddenly, the door to the hallway creaked open on its own, and there she was, standing in a white dress, hair long like a waterfall, eyes full of fire and sorrow. "Rachel," Sarah whispered. Michael's mouth dropped open. Pastor John gasped. Rachel was Sarah's older sister, the one who had died in a car crash 5 years ago on this very road, right outside the church. Everyone said it was an accident, but Rachel had told Sarah a secret the night before she died, a secret about Pastor John. Sarah stared at her sister's ghost, heart pounding like a hammer. "Why are you here?" she whispered, tears in her eyes. Rachel raised her hand and pointed, not at Sarah, not at Michael, at Pastor John. "You let me die," Rachel said slowly, "and now you're doing it again." Sarah turned to Pastor John. "What did she mean?" she asked. Pastor John stepped back. His face turned gray. Then he looked at Michael. And for the first time, Pastor John said something he had never told anyone. I wasn't always a pastor. The church was silent, as if even the walls were listening. Sarah's mouth felt dry. Michael clenched his fists. Rachel's ghost stood still, her white dress moving in the wind that wasn't there. Pastor John lowered his head. I wasn't always a pastor, he repeated, his voice like a cold stone rolling across the floor. Sarah stepped forward. Then what were you? He looked up. His eyes were empty now, like a cave with no light. I was a man who wanted power, not God, not truth, just control. He walked to the front of the church, slowly, like a puppet with tangled strings. Years ago, Rachel came to me. She saw what I was hiding. The money, the lies, the women. She said she would tell. Sarah's hands covered her mouth. Rachel's ghost stared at him, face calm but sad. And you let me drive that night. You knew the brakes were broken. I didn't think you'd really take that car, Pastor John said, eyes wide now, like a scared child. I thought you were bluffing. I didn't mean to kill you. Michael shook his head. You lied to this whole town. You wore God like a costume. Pastor John turned to him. And you, Michael, don't act like a saint. You knew your wife was unhappy. You left her starving for love. That's why she came to me. Michael's face turned red. He took a step forward, but Sarah grabbed his arm. No, she said softly. We don't answer darkness with more darkness. Then the ground beneath them groaned. The lights above flickered again. Rachel's ghost stepped forward. Her voice now had the sound of rain and thunder all mixed together. Judgment has come, she whispered. Suddenly, the cross at the front of the church split down the middle with a loud crack. A dark mist leaked from it like ink in water. Sarah's legs gave out. She dropped to her knees. What is happening? She cried. Pastor John was backing away. No, this isn't real. You're not real. Rachel raised her hand again. And now, something else came through the church door. The church was no longer just a building. It felt alive, breathing, watching, remembering. And from the open door came a shadow that moved like smoke but had weight, like it carried time itself on its back. It had no clear face, no feet, no hands, but it looked at them, and it knew them. Sarah couldn't breathe. Her whole body froze, but her soul trembled. The thing spoke, not with a voice, but inside their heads. Each of them heard it differently. In Sarah's mind, you made room for him in your heart, though you called it prayer. In Michael's mind, you gave her your body but starved her spirit. In Pastor John's mind, you wore the robe of holiness, but built your throne on bones. Sarah screamed, What are you? The thing whispered, in a voice like wind between gravestones, I am the weight of secrets. I am the cost of masks. I am what you invited when you hid the truth under holy things. Rachel's ghost didn't move. She just watched, her eyes locked on the thing. And then, slowly, she bowed her head. Take what's owed, she said softly. Pastor John fell to the floor. He began to pray, but his words were empty, like someone knocking on a door they never built. Sarah felt a rush of memories, her wedding day, the laughter of her children, the moment she stepped into the church that night, and the way her heart had fluttered when Pastor John touched her hand. Tears fell down her face. I didn't come for this, she whispered. But the thing turned to her and said, You did. You just didn't know what you were carrying. Then it moved toward Pastor John, and he began to scream. But before it could reach him, the front doors burst open again. This time, it wasn't a ghost, or a shadow. It was someone no one had seen in years, someone who was supposed to be in prison, and he was holding a Bible in one hand and a gun in the other. The cold wind slammed the doors wide open, and there he stood, tall, rough beard, face like cracked stone. A long scar ran down his cheek like a river of pain. His eyes burned, not with hate, but something deeper, truth that had been locked away for too long. In one hand, a weathered Bible, in the other, a black gun that looked far too comfortable in his grip. Sarah gasped. Eli, Pastor John's body went still on the ground. No, it can't be. Michael stepped in front of Sarah. Who is he? But Sarah couldn't speak. Her throat had closed up. Her past was walking into the room, breathing her name. Eli spoke, his voice rough like broken glass. Been a long time, Pastor. The thing, the shadow of judgment, stood still now, watching, almost as if it, too, was waiting for this man. I thought you were dead, Pastor John muttered. Eli smiled darkly. You prayed for that, didn't you? Rachel's ghost tilted her head. He knows, she whispered. He saw what no one else did. Sarah finally found her voice. Eli, what are you doing here? He stepped forward slowly. You remember the night Rachel died? He asked, looking at her. She called me, told me she had something big to tell me, said she was scared, said the pastor wasn't what he seemed. He looked at Pastor John now, eyes sharp as razors. She died before I got there. but I knew something was off. I knew he had something to do with it. Pastor John stood slowly, trembling. You were in jail, set up, Eli interrupted, evidence planted, and guess whose name was all over the papers? Sarah's head spun. You think he sent you to prison? Eli nodded. I don't think. I know. Then he turned to the shadow creature, the thing made of secrets and weight and whispers. You've been waiting to collect, Eli said. The thing moved slightly. Then let's make it fair, Eli added. Let's bring it all out. No more lies. No more hidden sins. Let the whole church see what's behind the pulpit. And then, he tossed the Bible onto the altar. It opened on its own, and a light poured out. Not golden, not warm. It was truth. And it hurt, because it didn't just shine, it revealed. Everyone began to shake, because in that moment, every secret, every betrayal, every hidden thing, began to crawl into the light. The Bible lay open on the altar, its pages glowing with a strange, silver light. Not warm, not comforting. It was cold, like moonlight in a graveyard, and it was pulling things out. From the walls, from the floor, from inside them. Michael gasped as images swirled in the air, visions, like broken dreams stitched together. A night he told no one about, a message he deleted, a moment he walked away when Sarah was crying in the kitchen. No, he whispered, not here. Sarah clutched her chest. The light showed her too, moments she had buried deep, the texts to Pastor John, the lies she told herself, the night she looked in the mirror and wondered if love was ever real. Then, Pastor John screamed, because from the light came her, not Rachel, another woman, younger, crying. Help me, she whispered. Sarah turned to him. Who is that? Pastor John backed away like a man on fire. No. That's not real. I buried her, I let her go. Eli took a step forward. Another name, another silence. Rachel's ghost looked at the glowing Bible. The truth is bleeding out now. There's no more hiding, John. The shadow creature moved again, closer to Pastor John, who now wept on the floor. Please, he begged. I wanted to change. I became a pastor to be better. But the creature whispered inside his soul, you used my name to hide your stains. Now your stains were my name. The room shook. Cracks ran up the church walls. The altar began to break. And suddenly, the candle that had fallen earlier relit itself. The fire grew tall, wild, and from it, stepped a child, a little girl, holding a cross. She walked straight toward the shadow creature, and she said just one thing, you can't stay here anymore. The creature froze. Everyone stared. Sarah whispered, who is she? Rachel turned slowly, and her voice broke as she said, that's my daughter. The little girl stepped through the growing fire with bare feet, untouched by the flames. Her white dress glowed with light, not like a light you see, but one you feel. It was the kind of light that made every lie in the room tremble. She held the cross tightly in her small hand. Her eyes were deep, too deep for a child. They looked like she had seen lifetimes, storms, prayers, betrayals, and she was still standing. Pastor John crawled backwards, shaking. No, it can't be. She was never born. You were pregnant, Rachel, but you said, Rachel didn't move. Her ghost was silent, her face unreadable. The girl turned and looked up at her. Mommy, she said. Her voice was soft, but it echoed like thunder wrapped in a lullaby. And Rachel cried, not the weeping of the dead, but the cry of a mother meeting what she had only known in dreams. Sarah was frozen. Her hand covered her mouth. Michael fell to his knees. Even the shadow creature stepped back, because the girl, this child, was not just flesh and blood. She was truth and grace. She walked past Eli, past Michael, past Sarah, and stood in front of the altar where the glowing Bible burned and whispered like wind through leaves. Then she turned to the shadow and spoke. You have fed on secrets long enough. The shadow hissed, twisting, trying to grow, trying to spread over the walls again, but the child raised her cross, and a golden circle of fire surrounded the altar. The shadow tried to flee, but the fire followed it, locking it in. You're not welcome in what's been made new, she said. The lie ends tonight. The creature screamed, not loud, but deep, like the sound of chains being broken under the earth. It vanished into the fire. Gone. The church became still. The light faded. Rachel's ghost stepped forward. Her eyes met her daughter's. Are you real? She whispered. The girl smiled gently. I'm what love left behind. And then, she looked at Sarah, straight into her soul. And she said, he's not the only one hiding something. The room went cold again. Sarah backed away. No, what do you mean? But the child's eyes had already turned. To Michael, to Eli, to the basement door behind the altar. And she said one final thing before she vanished into light. It's time to go below. The lock snapped. The cabinet creaked open. And inside were files. old ones, labeled in red ink, names, dates, photos. Sarah stepped closer. Her own name was there, so was Rachel's, and beneath the files was a shoebox. Pastor John grabbed it before anyone could. "No," he said, "not this. You don't understand." Eli grabbed his arm. "We're done with secrets." He tore the box from John's grip and opened it. Inside was a small voice recorder, a ring, a blood-stained handkerchief, and a note, written in Rachel's handwriting. Sarah picked it up. It said, "If I die, he wasn't alone." Suddenly, a noise came from behind them. A click. Michael turned slowly, and there, standing at the top of the stairs, was another figure, face in the shadows, and it spoke just 3 words, "You weren't supposed to find this." The voice hit them like ice water. "You weren't supposed to find this." It was calm, too calm. Sarah's knees locked. Michael took a step forward, shielding her. Eli raised the gun slightly. "Show yourself." The figure at the top of the stairs didn't move, but the light behind them flickered, and slowly revealed the face. Sarah gasped. No, it was Deacon Paul, the quiet one, the faithful church worker, the man who fixed the lights, taught the children, stood behind Pastor John every Sunday like a shadow that smiled. Pastor John's mouth fell open. "Paul?" Paul smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was cold, flat, like a mirror. "I told you," Paul said, stepping down one stair. "Secrets are only dangerous when they fall into the wrong hands." Eli kept the gun steady. "What are you doing here?" Paul shrugged, cleaning up what should have stayed buried. Rachel's ghost moved forward. You were there that night." Paul looked at her. No fear, no shame. "I was." Sarah felt the room spinning again. "You helped him?" Paul's eyes glinted. Rachel was going to blow the whole thing up. The fake donations, the stolen funds, the broken women. All that holy glitter was about to turn to ash. He looked at Pastor John with contempt, and he panicked. Like a coward, Pastor John looked sick. "You said we could fix it." "I said I could fix you," Paul hissed. "You were my mask. I needed a face for the people. You were useful, but then she got in the way." Sarah's voice cracked. "So you let her die?" Paul smirked. "I didn't let her. I chose it." Rachel's ghost flickered. Eli stepped forward. "Put your hands where I can see them." But Paul laughed. "You think I came down here unarmed?" From his coat, he pulled a small silver device, and pressed it. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. The basement lights dimmed. The lock on the church doors above slammed shut, and the ground began to vibrate. Paul smiled wider now. "You went digging in graves. Now they're waking up." The files in the cabinet fluttered. Pages tore. The shoebox fell to the floor. And then, a loud, cracking noise. Behind them, the basement wall began to split open. Not like something breaking, more like something being born. Rachel stepped back, eyes wide. "No, not that, not again." Sarah grabbed Michael's hand. "What is that?" he asked. Rachel whispered, "That's where he kept the worst part of himself." As morning light broke through the basement cracks, they climbed the stairs slowly, one by one. The church above was still, quiet, but it no longer felt haunted. It felt humbled. And at the altar, the Bible was still open. The last page now glowed. Sarah walked to it. One verse pulsed softly, "And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." John 8 verse 32. She looked up, and for the first time in a long, long while, she could finally breathe. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your time and support. It means the world to me that you took a moment to be a part of this journey. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who might appreciate it too. Your support helps us create even more meaningful stories and moments together. Stay tuned for more, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thanks again for being here. Smiling face with smiling eyes.